Hi guys, Jeremy here again with English 382. What I'd like to talk about in this video is something called the CV study, which stands for Curriculum Vitae. So what a CV is basically a summary of all your credentials. It's kind of like an expanded upon resume. And what CV studies do, or what they have done recently, is really expose some of the implicit biases that people hold. And by learning about these studies and seeing the results, which are shocking, we can learn how to be more aware of our own implicit biases that we may have. So there's just a horde of studies that illustrate what I'm going to talk about. A couple I have listed here: Bertrand and Mullaithan, 2004, Ruth in 2007, Moss and Ruskin in 2012, Sin Price in 1999. If you want to learn more about these studies I'm going to talk about, just Google any of them. You'll find a ton of them, all from universities like Harvard, Notre Dame, a lot of very credible sources. So feel free to look into those. But mainly, the one I'm most concerned with, I think, is from Project Implicit at Harvard. And what they did was they took an identical resume and they changed the name on the resume to, names sounding more female or male, or names sounding more ethnic in certain regards. And they submitted them to a sample job market, and it was incredibly interesting because, and then they gathered the results, and it turned out that based on gender and name, perceived ethnicity, certain resumes, all the resumes were identical. The results said that the ones that sounded, more male, more Caucasian, those resumes were rated as more likely to hire. They were rated more likely to be paid higher, more likely to be mentored by current employers. So really, very startling and disturbing results. So again, this ties into our previous videos: prestige bias, perception bias. This could perhaps be a combination of those and other biases as well. But it's just incredibly interesting to see that with a completely level and identical resume, some people were rated to be paid more likely to be hired, and more likely to be mentored. So I guess the biggest takeaway from these CV studies and what we've learned from this is to really do your best, which is tough, to look at things objectively. Because there's absolutely no reason that an identical resume should be paid less or be less likely to hire based on gender or ethnicity. These are problems that are all associated with implicit bias. So the more we learn about these results, we can be more self-aware of how to prevent it. A really good way people have done is leaving names off resumes or that sort of thing to make sure that hiring and those sorts of decisions are entirely objective. So again, CV studies basically taught us more about implicit bias. One good way to get around this sort of thing is making application stuff much more anonymous. But again, very important to recognize and realize in our everyday lives that unknowing to us, the author of an article, that sort of thing, the sound of someone's name could affect how we perceive that person and the information they're presenting. So very important to, again, say, do I think I'm being affected by a bias here that I may not be aware of? Do I have a problem with this information outside of the context of the objective facts of the information? Is there something else about this information that's bothering me? So really important to always do your best, take a step back, try to make things anonymous if you can, but if you can't, really say, can I look at this in an objective manner and try to leave any perception bias, any bias out of this? So very important to think about. Google the studies yourself. They're very interesting. Thank you for listening.